Last night, Geelong knocked West Coast out. They won by 20 points. And then tonight, in a thriller at the Gabba, Brent Daniels kicked the winner for GWS to send Brisbane packing in straight sets. The margin, gentlemen, was 3 points. So on Friday night, it's Richmond versus Geelong at the MCG, probably without Tom Hawkins. We'll dissect that. Then the following afternoon, it's Collingwood versus GWS. We'll talk up both semis, both prelims. Don Pike, Will Rioli, Dicko's blunder of the year, and much more. Who wants first crack?
Carry on. I'll have first crack. You went with a perm last week. Now you got a flat top. Don't take it personally when we have a go at you.
We can do better than this, surely.
What's happened?
No, a haircut.
You look like Bart Simpson.
Have you never had a haircut?
You didn't know what a perm was last week.
I didn't. I actually did go and Google when I got home.
You do look like Bart Simpson.
Thank you.
And
what are you going with?
Look like you had your head in a vice too. Have a look at it. No, my first crack is the spirit of the game.
The second crack's the spirit of the game.
It is, you're right. Sean Ryan telling Adam Kennedy to stop hitting Charlie Cameron in the arm. Now it's a final. He's out on the ground. He's not an injured player. Spirit of the game. And I must say, in that first half, I am not a big advocate of I want to bash the umpires, but that was probably the worst half of football I saw from an adjudication point of view, because a final should be let go, it's contested, it's everything you want it to be. But Razor, and I love Razor.
You blaming Razor?
No. He might have got some shrapnel from the fireworks before the game in his eye on a couple of those decisions. But
Sean Ryan was the umpire with the spirit of the game.
It was. And that was the big part. Like, come on. Grabbing an arm, hitting an arm. There was nothing in it. And I just thought the spirit of everyone would be thinking it's just got to be played. Play it on its merits. You know, defenders push, shove, punch, do whatever we want to do. So there was nothing untoward, and everyone was blowing up because he had tape on his arm. If he didn't have tape on his arm and he said the same actions, would he have said something?
But if you actually dissect the wording of the law...
What is the word?
All right, so the way I see it, it could have been paid for one of probably two reasons. The first one is Law 17.7.1, without getting too technical, but this is the actual...
Sounds technical.
This is the wording of the law. Players shall be protected from unreasonable conduct from an opposition player which is likely to cause injury. So effectively, it's a free kick.
What he was doing was not likely to cause injury.
No, the law is titled rough conduct, spirit and intention. I didn't know the word spirit was in the laws of the game, did you? So consider that one, and then consider a free kick shall be awarded against a player who engages in misconduct. So it's one of those two. It's likely to cause injury or it's misconduct, the way Sean Ryan would have read it, I believe.
Well, let's not make a big deal of it, but I was really disappointed with that. We've got millions of people watching, and we've got an umpire telling a player not to pull and hit an arm.
So we need to look at the this is ridiculous.
It's technical.
It's so technical. No one understands that. No, that's not clear for anyone. So I think that we need to review the actual laws of the game. Make them simpler for everyone. That's so technical. We still don't know right now whether it's a free kick or not.
Well, we don't know whether it's paid for point one or point two there.
I thought it was more about a player being injured coming from the field, which is the Nick
Riewoldt scenario.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was
what I thought in for.
You're talking about Nick Riewoldt at the Gabba about 15 years ago.
Yeah, an injured player trying to get from the ground or has been injured and obviously in suffering, and you go up and abuse that.
Yeah, but let me ask you both. Should the umpire ever be warning players not to give away a free kick?
If they have seen previous instances and they haven't awarded a free kick, yes, they can.
Surely you just pay it as you see it.
If there's a free kick to be paid, pay it. What's the conversation for? I don't understand the conversation. Do we need to have a conversation with the umpires? Why? If the players acted outside the rules, pay a free kick. If he hasn't, what's the conversation about?
But aren't we asking the umpires to give the players, because we're so frustrated, give them some form of, like in the NRL, a bunker, you can actually ask the referee, what was that for? And they can give you something definitive.
If the player goes to the umpire, that's fine.
You're saying from an umpire going to a player, totally different.
Yeah.
What's the point?
What's the point?
I will say, though, and not to take anything away from the game, it was an unbelievable game of foot. That second half got me back because the lead, and Leon Cameron touched on it in his presser, it went They got out. It was a bit like the dog, you know, when Tom takes his poodle down the park and he just lets it have a little bit more lead, and then it comes back, and out they go and it comes back. Like that's how the game was.
Right.
And it's a fluffy poodle.
I was gonna
get
say-
to that game in a minute, mate.
Yeah.
I thought, the spirit of the game, I wasn't happy with that.
Yep.
My crack?
Yeah, have a crack.
Well, there are no guarantees. There are no guarantees. And everyone's going to talk about the Brisbane Lions, what a fantastic year they've had, and what Chris Fagan's done to the football club. Fine. Just park that for a moment, right? But there are no guarantees that they'll be back here again. You've got to win flags in the year that you're special. And they were special this year. I know you were an advocate of them, but they were incredibly healthy. The last 6 weeks they played 24 players. They had 20 players play every game in the last 6 weeks. You just don't get a run like that into the finals. Clearly the lowest in the AFL. Can I give you some numbers?
Yep.
Since 04, of the top 4 teams, this is a home and away finish, okay? So don't worry about the finals. They can chop and change a little bit. But on home and away finish, twice the same teams have finished top 4. Only twice since 04. So there's a shift in the top 4 teams. 2 to 3 time teams, drop out of the top 8 that are between 5th and 8th on the ladder.
Okay. So they're vulnerable.
2 to 3.
Yeah.
Those replacements generally come from 9th to 14th on the table. 23 of the last 25.
Wow.
So that's 92% come from that next bracket of half a dozen teams, 9 to 14th. And if you're 15th to 18th, only 2 of the last 25 have come into the 8. So it's when you look at Melbourne, who finished well down the bottom of the table, the Gold Coast we know, Carlton, I'm trying to think of who else finished down there, but
Fremantle.
it makes it really difficult to, in my opinion, to just bank on something for next year. So the Lions are back in the fight. Everyone starts square with the card at the start of 2020. They're not going to get a run like this with health. We saw the Adelaide Crows back in 2017. They were as healthy as could be. They were healthy for 2 years.
Yep.
They missed their chance. Where are they now?
And they're going to get a harder fixture as well.
Harder fix. Everything goes against you. Everything changes. We talk about Hodge. Is Hodge going to be there? You know, do they start losing some talent through trade? Will they get another injection like a Lockie Neal's come in, had a fantastic impact. So we're not being negative about them. We're just saying this was an amazing opportunity, and unfortunately it's gone.
Because they weren't good enough? Is it as simple as that?
Well, they weren't far off. I mean, it's
Taking your opportunities.
Yeah, you just got to take them. You just got to, when you've got a point of difference, you have to win the flag with that point of difference, and we talk about that quite a bit.
We talk about it every year.
Yeah.
So what did they do wrong then to lose this game? What could they have done better?
Moments. It's just moments.
So what were the
in end.
moments then? Because we saw Brent Daniels' goal and we dissected it off air, but what else did they do wrong in that last quarter?
Well, set shots, Dicko. We were watching the set shots in that third term.
Phil
I thought
Davis
that-
kept taking marks.
Yeah.
The entries inside 50,
Yeah.
I just thought with no pressure they rushed themselves, and they did that the week before against Richmond, and you can say slaughter, but you've got some really good explosive forwards up in that forward line. I don't think they used it as well as they would have. Like they had at one stage 15 inside 50s. The Giants hadn't got it near it. Yet they'd only retained the ball 3 times in there. Like you just can't afford to do that in a final. You've got to keep it. And they parked it in their forward half, but in, out. So I think the retention, they've got to work on that.
What
that was an
about the
opportunity.
leadership? I mean, just cold, hard leadership in big moments, in big games. The organisation, the positioning, the little things. I mean, Phil Davis, for me, he was best on ground tonight. And that's an argument. Everyone sees the game differently. But he's had 14 disposals, 12 of those were intercepts. He won the ball back 12 times of his 14.
They kept kicking it to him though.
Well, not kicking to where he was.
Yeah.
It's up to him to beat his opponent for positioning and then beat them cold one-on-one when they arrive. I thought he was fantastic. And it makes you look at the teams that are left now, which leaders have stood up. We were talking about it earlier. You liked some of the Geelong leadership again last night. Just in big moments, they arrive when the moment needs them. We don't talk enough about Phil Davis and what he's done for the Giants. And I think that when we're talking about Pendlebury and Sidebottom and Dangerfield and Selwood and these guys, we've got to throw Phil into that discussion.
Can I ask you both about Leon Cameron? What does this mean for him? A preliminary final against Collingwood and a shot at the grand final.
Well, I think this year he was probably under more pressure than any coach. He went prelim, and correct me if I'm wrong, King,
Yep.
prelim, semi.
Yep.
And this year, copped his injuries, got to the finals, and won the first final in style. And it wasn't, this is a relief. I thought the pressure was greater tonight than it was last week. I really did. So the fact that his team has stood up and gone, right, we're into a prelim final now. They're a danger team, and we saw Nathan Buckley watching that football.
Yep.
If you're a betting man, Kingy, which you are, he didn't want Brisbane Lions. He didn't want Giants to get through. He would have rathered the Brisbane Lions, but now he's got the Giants.
But why? What are the major reasons why?
I just think they're stronger across the lines, the Giants now. So their defence, like you spoke about, Haynes was great tonight.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they can handle that forward line of Collingwood. But I think on the flip side of that, that front half is very, very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Can light up for 10 minutes and kick 5 goals, can't
Oh,
it?
yeah,
That midfield is awesome. But I feel for Leon with his history. I mean, that one goal lost to the Western Bulldogs back in 2016. We all talk about that game. 10 points to Collingwood last year. He's lost a couple of really close finals, and we say that he should have been in a grand final already as a coach. So if he had lost tonight by under a goal, you go, wow, is he unlucky? Is he not the man? The fallout's huge. The flip of the coin between winning and losing changes everything.
Yeah.
He would have been under enormous pressure had he lost that game, rightly or wrongly. That just becomes the narrative. But I think it goes deeper than this. He's had to take calculated risks for the last 6 weeks to get this group together over the last couple of weeks, and some of those players are only 80% fit. They really are. They've only played a couple of games back. I think if you look at De Boer, Kelly. Whitfield missed a block of footy, so they're finding their rhythm now. I know they're all out there and they're all declared fit when they run out there, Dicko, but their weaponry, every game is getting better. That's why, for me, they become a real scare next week.
And I think Brisbane are one of the most potent teams at the way they attack you. So, like, their defence tonight was extraordinary from the Giants. So, and no disrespect to Collingwood, but it comes in furious when you play Brisbane. So when they don't take their opportunities, they might let you off the leash. But the ability to absorb what they absorbed tonight and still win that game of footy was enormous.
So the Giants versus Collingwood at the MCG next Saturday twilight. That's going to be a belter. But I want to talk about Luke Hodge because he looked as if he refused to chair off towards the end of the game. That's how it looked on the TV. If it is his last game, what a legacy he's left on the AFL and Hawthorn and also the Brisbane Lions.
Oh, I love him.
I can tell.
Oh, no, I love him. I texted him during the week. It was 11:30 at night, and I don't go to bed till midnight, 1 o'clock. And he didn't text me back, and I said, good chat. And he said, well, what you sent me, I thought you were drinking. Like, I just love him.
What did you say?
I can't say. No, I just said about opportunity and what he's done for that football club. And I know Lynchy said it in the post game. He's made that club a destination. So the next experienced player to come out and be on the fringe of a club that's got the leadership qualities, which is pretty hard to sit alongside Luke Hodge on that front. But he has created another opportunity for someone who is retired. He really has. Yeah. And what he's done in footy, everyone, he's an immortal in my eyes, and not because he's one of my close mates. But
do you think? Can I ask you? Do you think that his leadership and he's always invested in the game? He doesn't switch off. Like, he's always instructing, pointing. Do you think that'll rub off on these younger players down back? And how quickly will a Harris Andrews become that player, or Darcy Gardner be able to become that player? Can they say, okay, that's what is required to become a really good back six or back seven, whatever you want to call it, and then say, well, Hodgie's not here. It's got to be me. Is that the challenge, and can they do that?
Just before you answer that, Luke Hodge has announced that he's retired on the Brisbane Lions website. So that's it. Yeah. What a career.
So just based on what you just said then, Kingy, I think Daniel Rich has had an unbelievable year this year.
Yep.
And 25% better player because Luke Hodge has played with him. Gives him every opportunity to showcase what Daniel Rich does. And the organisation behind the ball, and every Fox footy person out there that loves their football would listen to our commentary week in, week out. And we always talk about how well you're organised behind the ball, how quick you can squeeze up. I call him the A380 because he's just got the wings out the whole time, just pointing, directing. And even when he was on the bench tonight, he was teeing and pointing. Like someone was running past the bench and he was instructing. So will it rub off? I think Darcy Gardner, and from what I can gather, he's very much a hothead, so I think Luke Hodge cools him down.
Yep.
So who's going to take that role?
Yeah.
Harris Andrews looks a very composed young man, and then you get into the likes of a Daniel Rich, which I think has excelled this year because of a Luke Hodge.
That last play, that last goal to Daniels will be shown 30 times during the preseason that every little thing counts. Every action, every time the ball's coming into your area, your positioning, your location of where your opponent's likely to travel, getting your body right, getting an arm across, because that was such a simple play for to be shut down. And for Daniel also to get through and kick that goal.
It was so quick. Yeah.
But it was over like that. Alex Witherden will watch that play. He'll have nightmares the next few days.
It's easy to say in hindsight, but Witherden, if he had his time again, would try to take the mark, would he not? Because as soon as the ball landed, Daniels was away.
Or just cold beat his man.
Yeah.
Just get a body. If he body checks him to the boundary, he gets a play at the ball. Anything. You either got to take away their timing of your opponent when he wants to arrive at the footy, or you got to take his space and you got to get to the ball first. So there's one or the other. But that's a call that he would have made 100 times this year and probably got right 75 times.
Yeah.
So to get it wrong at the absolute wrong time tonight is really unlucky. But that's a hard one to probably live with through a pre-season.
I've got no doubt about that. They're the ones that haunt you, but they can also give you some serious resilience if you take it the right way. So that scenario.
So that organisation, though, they lost that for 30 seconds.
Yep.
And in
That's
the
the
end,
difference.
That's the difference. So that's the challenge now. Hodge is gone. Who's the next man up? And when we talk about, things change. There's no guarantees. If there is no next man up, you're back to where you were. So the challenge is for the Lions back six now.
And you said the unknown was whether Hodge was going to retire or not when we were watching the post game, and he didn't want the big hoo-ha and all that. That just shows you what sort of a guy he is.
He's announced it on the Brisbane Lions website. I mean,
A lot of
understated.
unknowns. A lot of unknowns in footy. We didn't know you were going to really seriously address the feathers during the week.
I decided to. Yeah. I made the
Handle
call.
feedback real well, did you?
I got feedback from you and others
haven't
based on
handled
your feedback.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with it.
And the Botox is working too.
It's
with
a
your
twofold
tombstone.
problem.
I haven't had Botox, but I've thought about it a few times.
Dern's got
Now,
leftovers.
He's cut the feathers, but the cinema screen's got a bit bigger.
Gold class.
Speaking of self-analysis, I think it's time
Yes.
for a little bit more, a bit of 720-degree feedback. So at almost exactly this time last Ben Dixon, you said this.
No, he didn't.
I honestly think the coach has to go, and you're referring to Essendon here. I honestly think the coach has to go. You need someone in there that can change that football club's game style. You continue to talk, and we didn't stop you. They have gone backwards, yet they've played finals this year. Tells you a little bit about what we're looking at. And then you said, the only reason I say this is that it's a strong one to go with. And you thought about this, I can tell. I haven't heard anyone from the football club come out and support Worsfold. End quote. 13 hours later.
And he was asleep for 8 of them.
13 hours later, Xavier Campbell, 5 waking hours he had time to consider what you said. He said, John and the coaching group, I've never felt there's ever been anything but alignment between John and the club. John will be coaching Essendon next year. End quote. Dicko.
And where did he announce that?
At the VFL.
At the VFL.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where he announced it. He could announce it on Mars. He still said the
But he
words.
announced it at a VFL game a week after a 55-point loss in a final.
He still... You said, Dicko...
They made the finals, Tom. Why wouldn't you come out and say,
Hey.
that's a big tick for us and we've made the finals, he's our coach?
He's getting quite defensive.
Why,
Yeah.
But why would they...
It's okay to get it wrong, mate.
Now, he said he's going to coach.
Hey, we're here to support you.
No.
Don't touch him.
Don't touch me. I'll give you 720-degree feedback at a spin.
I know what you're saying, but you said you think he should go, and he will go, and then the next day Xavier Campbell said he's staying. That's the reality, isn't it?
As soon as he woke up, he said, no.
That's
He had
the
his cereal
reality.
and he said he's staying.
So there's two things to this.
Yep.
One,
Doesn't
Xavier
talk
watches
70-20 well, does he?
Xavier watches the first crack and he goes, well, I'll let Dicko know. The second
So
one
he's
is...
asleep for 7 hours.
We haven't got time to run a press conference. Let's just
Hang
do
on.
it at the VFL.
That's on the back of your Brisbane Lions. You said,
Hey.
moment you said they were unbeatable this year, they've lost. They're out in straight sets.
So
Hey, you can get it wrong every now and then.
that leads me to this, though.
They're up
hello.
3 points. Come on.
I'm not done. 720-degree feedback
Going again.
continues beyond what we think it was. They've been a bit gun-shy in 2 rounds, you said about Brisbane Lions after round 23 in the first week of the finals. A third round might be different. I still think they win it. They're not even going to get a prelim final, Dicko. You've gone bang-bang.
Hey, I can reheat old soup. Don't you worry about that.
He's got it in for you.
They had more opportunities against
This is
Richmond.
personal.
Richmond a better time.
This is personal now.
I'll make it personal.
They had that game of football.
Yeah, they did.
Daniels
No, they
decided to put the afterburners on.
They never had it.
Oh, all right,
So
by
they
3
had
points.
The poodle analogy. The lead was out and we got it back.
Do you think watching the start of that game tonight, do you think watching the start, and they knew that the GWS Giants were going to come out physical. They knew they were going to come out and challenge them. How did they handle it? How did the Lions handle the physicality of the Giants? Did they get sucked in to what Leon's boys were going to do?
I don't think they got sucked in, but they weren't prepared for it. Honestly, watching that game of football, I don't think they were prepared. Where
First 4
if you
goals of
watched
the
the
game.
Bulldogs game, and I watched it again during the week, physical. You knew they were going to come, and they were going to come hard.
Oh.
But to their credit, they responded.
Yeah.
And quote, unquote, I should get my phone out. Kingy goes...
Quote, unquote. Quote, unquote. It's end
The
quote.
score was 6, Brisbane 26 to Giants, and Kingy texts me, goes, "You're competent tonight." And then Brisbane hit the front, and I said, "Who's competent?"
I'll revisit your text back.
That's enough. Quote, and quote, unquote. More first crack after this. We're going to have to go and have a coffee, you and I, Dicko. That's enough. Now, Kingy, on first crack, Dicko's got 2 jobs. The first one is to get things right. He's stuffed up 2 things already.
Yeah.
The second thing is to get the board right that sits behind us.
Hasn't made a correct call all year.
I had Brisbane on there, boys. I've just got the Giants there now.
Well done.
Took you a
Look
while.
at that. Good.
I actually did that 2 minutes to go in the game of footy.
What's the flat what?
I was talking about Tom's hair, the flat, the flat white.
Let's talk about Willie Rioli, because this is a
Yes.
serious issue.
It is.
And it exploded on Thursday afternoon, less than 24 hours before just over 24 hours before the semi-final at MCG. What was your initial reaction to what you heard out of the West, Kingy?
Look, my initial reaction is, why so late? You know, why are we finding out so late? You can put the dates to this,
Well,
but
August 20 is when the offence occurred, alleged offence occurred.
but we knew the offence had happened immediately. So as soon as he tampered with I don't get into the mechanics of it too much, but as soon as he was seen to have tampered with the urine, that was done and dusted. So regardless of what was actually in that sample, which we'd find out at a later date, he was done. He was done for a 4-year, potential 4-year sanction. So why did it take so long to come out, and why did it come out at the most awkward time of all time for the West Coast Eagles, which was 36 hours before a final? They've travelled from Perth to Melbourne to find out.
Yeah, but if it's a positive test, it takes longer. It might take 2, 3, 4 months.
Yeah.
So it seems to me
That's the actual test, though. He was done
I know, but
on the
findings,
process.
I feel like the findings of whatever occurs takes 2, 3, 4 months. The findings of this, I feel like, were accelerated because of the fact you just said. But your argument is it wasn't accelerated quick enough. It should have been 2 days later or a day later.
My argument is they knew that he transgressed the moment that test was finished.
Yeah.
So why not even the next day? You are out of football. You're out. You're not playing the next 3 weeks, which he played, or two weeks.
Yeah.
Because of X, Y, and Z. These are the rules, hard and fast. We'll still do the tests. We'll still do the appropriate paperwork down the path and clear the sample or not. If there's performance enhancing, you're in massive trouble. Outside of that, that's it. But he's not done because of the actual sample anymore. He's done because of the process.
And the B sample came up negative.
So he should have been.
Do we know that?
Well,
Did the B sample come up negative? We don't know what there's no B sample back yet. We don't know.
Are you sure?
are you positive on that?
I haven't heard anything about a B sample. I just know
You're
that.
the news hound.
Yeah, no, he's been charged.
Done anything else but get a haircut this week?
He's been charged with allegedly tampering or attempting to tamper with the results of a drug test. That's it. That's all we know.
I find it staggering.
So
Jordan
why can't
Lewis.
we know earlier?
That.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you there, but we don't.
It automatically goes to the greatest charge, which is the 4-year ban. It's the worst possible drug you can take that could accelerate cheating. This kid's not trying to cheat. This kid's not trying to get an advantage on the competition.
No, but
He's not.
the B sample is irrelevant. In my opinion, the B sample is irrelevant.
But what
now.
Kingy's
Why?
saying is that, by the letter of what you're
Yeah.
telling me, he attempted to tamper,
Yeah.
which they knew on that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as that test
Yeah, no,
finished.
okay, no, we've got the timeline right. I agree with you there. But we're talking about this B sample that may or may not come back in the future, and it hasn't come back yet. We don't know the result of the B sample. The B sample could have performance-enhancing drugs. It could have recreational drugs. It could be clean.
No,
we don't know.
Yeah, I think we do know that. But
Well, that hasn't.
I think we know that, and the attempted tampering is why the 4 years has been.
Well, I think it's a bigger crime to tamper with a test.
A-
And it needs
anyway.
to actually test positive.
I still want to know
Why
how
have we
you
waited
actually.
to 48 or 36 hours out from the biggest game?
And did it impact the West Coast, do you think?
It has to impact. I mean, you're planning. You're effectively in camp with this guy. You're on the road. You're flown over. You go into your normal routines.
We're talking about 3 points.
Yeah.
There's not much in it.
No.
No, we're talking about Willie. So they're missing a half-forward flanker, very important player, critical to their scoring, best kick inside 50 in the competition.
Yeah.
It's just a change you don't need. Petrocelli, who played last Sunday, has to fly across and then play 2 games in 5 days. So it's just an impost to the team.
Another
Now,
distraction, isn't it?
It's a distraction that I think we could have avoided.
Yeah.
By being probably more severe.
I'm actually still wondering how you actually tamper
Yeah, I don't know.
with that. Like,
Well,
that's-
explain to us why, based on your
because they
experience.
watch everything. So when they sit with you, they go everywhere. Like Kingy back in the day when he couldn't after a game dehydrated, he'd get
I took one to the
Depot,
Starbar.
Tunnel, Starbar. They go to about 4 venues.
Because they follow you, don't they?
They do.
They're
They follow
chaperone.
you everywhere. They
Yeah.
sit in a team meeting. They sit in the ice bars.
Yeah.
But not in it, but next to it. But that's what they do. And when you urinate into the cup,
Don't point at where I urinate.
they, well, you sit down to do that anyway. But they watch you the whole time.
Yeah.
So they got eyes everywhere. So that's where I get a little confused. And I heard Jordan Lewis comments during the week. He said, I'm trying to figure out how that actually
Yeah, and
happens.
Lee Montagna said the same thing on AFL tonight.
I was blown away.
So it's 4 years for, let's call it, stupidity or ignorance or naivety, whatever you want to call it. Is that too hefty a penalty? Should there be more of a common sense approach to this or not? Is it too hard for that?
Well, probably not. I mean, I don't know. The rules are the rules. You can't mess with the rules. They're pretty simple, aren't they?
They all
But-
know them, don't they?
Well, I don't.
I wouldn't know that rule.
I don't know if they all know.
But,
'em,
but you know you can't tamper.
yeah, exactly.
You know you can't do that, but do you know the severity of that? I don't think you do.
It's effectively the same as getting a hammer and smashing the sample.
Hmm.
It like in all reasonable.
Yeah, but you got to give this
opinion,
kid
it's the
a
same.
break because he mightn't have thought through it. He might have just
He's made a horrible.
24
he's
years
just
old.
made a mistake. So
Yeah.
don't.
I'm not trying to say that he should be banned forever. I'm just saying that I feel like the AFL players get a lot of education on this sort of thing.
No, not that. No, I disagree. I think the young kid's made a mistake. He just made a mistake, and he would have had no idea that's going to be 4 years.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm saying. He should have an idea. He should know that
No, he
he
shouldn't.
can't tamper
I
with
didn't
the
know.
sample.
Anyway,
Anyway.
All right, that's enough of Willie Rioli. Another big story that broke about, what was it, about 3 hours before that, was Don Pike resigning from the Crows pre-end of season review. Did he jump before he was going to be pushed, Kingy?
did he? No, I think his wording was absolutely spot on. That he thought that he couldn't be part of the solution, and he thought that a new coach needed to come in, a fresh set of eyes, a fresh start for the whole football club. You know, from the players to the staff, the whole lot. And I think that's common sense. I think he's made a great decision and probably a selfless decision, really. I mean, he's had 2 years on a contract. He could have played hardball, probably could have got a payout, all those sorts of things. But he just said, okay, I'm a coach because I love the game. I love coaching football. And I think we have to celebrate what he's done, really. I mean, not many people would walk from a 2-year contract.
60% winning record.
Yeah, he's been. It's just going to sound silly. He's been a wonderful coach in terms of the way he set up the mechanics of how they played. That 2-year span when they had a chance to win one didn't go their way. They ran into a pretty strong Richmond on the day.
But almost everything they've done since then, I said that's probably harsh. Several things they've done since grand final day have been colossal errors. The training camp, the inability to admit that the training camp seriously affected players, a hamstring epidemic. Again,
That's not all Don, though.
I know, absolutely. I'm talking about the club as a whole.
Yeah.
They've made several colossal errors since then that have, in the end, forced Don Pike to resign. I don't think Don Pike is to blame fully for any of those things, but he's a part in it.
But I see this another way. He didn't jump off a sinking ship.
No.
The ship's still there. So he's just put another skipper in before.
It's not going real well.
It's not going well,
No.
but it's not sinking. So put someone in that can actually
It's been a pretty
skipper this
steep
one.
fall, though, mate.
Oh, it has. And
In the space
coaching's a
of-
hard caper, right? So we
In
hammer
the
that. We
space
get,
of 50 games, Dicko, they've gone from a grand final to cast to looking for a new coach. That's a pretty. You get the bends when you go down that quick, mate.
I think they're sinking.
when you go down to get the lobster.
It's a steep fall.
Yeah. It is a steep fall, but what I'm saying is very courageous decision. We hammered him this year.
Yeah.
Hammered him. And I'll put my hand up, and I was very honest, and you're always honest, and you sit on the fence of your letterbox, but
Comes along.
But we're very critical of Don and the way he's gone about it this year. And I always look at the game, how he coaches the game, and his ability to keep backing players in was the most disappointing thing for me. He had Darcy Fogarty in the sample for an eternity. So looking at that decision alone,
you're not alone there. There's people at Adelaide who think that he placed too much trust in the same players for the last 3 years. Fewest list changes, 2016 to 2019.
But they're the things I'm critical of.
But they were there a bit. I mean,
you
can't be critical of that because they were in the big.
That shows
they were in the big games.
That shows stability, but in the end, it's hurt him. As Dick
no, but the
said.
players were performing. You're not going to have many list changes when the players are performing at a high level and you're making grand finals. So to say you're going to turn a list over is just doesn't marry up.
But even the best teams continue to turn the list over.
The big question now is all these other situations you're talking about, all these other errors along the way. If it's not just Don, how many have to go?
Yeah, it's a great question.
And some of those key figures, and we work with Mark Rashudo, and we love him as a bloke, but he's now in charge of finding the next coach. When his role in this whole football club is still under review. We still haven't seen
It's a great point.
the totality of the review. And Fagan the same. I mean, I don't know where it sits with the football manager in Brett Burton and those guys, but surely this is not just Don Pike. And he's come out and said, if I'm not part of the solution, then I'm part of the problem. I've got to go. Now, surely those questions and those statements have to sit with those other three key people. You just can't turn a whole playing list over and keep the hierarchy of the club. You can't do that.
No. I think Andrew Fagan's under serious pressure. Brett Burton's been under pressure for 2 years. He's the one who gave the ultimate tick of approval again to this training camp.
Collective minds.
Just gives me shudders. It gives the Crows players shudders. They're going to lose players this off-season who want to go because they can't cop.
Will they lose? Will they lose them if they can get their ship in order really quickly and get a coach in who can actually start to talk to the? I think the timing of this is critical.
Yeah.
To have you clean out as quick as you possibly can. Fast forward this review. Pull the information in as quick as you possibly can. Cut the cord on who needs to leave. Be really mature and swift about it. Get your coach in. They need a figurehead right now to take control of this list that's wandering aimlessly. Really, they can't afford to lose 6 or 8 players.
What do you mean wandering?
Note.
What do you mean wandering aimlessly?
Well, no one knows what's the direction of the place right now.
Yeah. Well, they're going to try to turn over a lot of their older players, aren't they? Betts, Jenkins, I think they'd let leave if someone wants to pay part of the salary.
So do they go to the draft table?
That's what they want to do.
Right.
But that's your opinion. How do you know what the new senior coach walking in thinks?
Yeah, no, fair. It's not my opinion. It's what I know of the club wants to do now. But you're right.
That's
the
the
new senior
club's
coach could change that.
Yeah. Well, that's the list manager's decision, is it?
Yeah.
I think the senior coach should have a fair say in who stays and goes.
So then they need to accelerate then, and maybe they want Ben Rutten, but maybe Essendon are saying we want to keep Ben Rutten for 2021.
Well,
so
that makes it very interesting.
So behind the scenes, there's this little play between a couple of clubs, probably a cold war, where the Dons want to keep Ben Rutten because they think he's probably going to succeed Worsfold, but are they sure enough to actually make that call now?
That's the $1 million question you asked me before.
Yeah, and what do you think?
Oh, I don't know anything about Ben Rutten as a coach.
No, neither do I.
I have no knowledge of what he is
Yeah.
possibly doing inside those walls. But one thing I do know, and that's why every Essendon supporter might not like me, but
No, they don't.
well, the way I word, I wasn't having a go at him in his personal.
No.
And the way John held himself through that saga, you could not have got a better front man. Like, he was enormous. But I assessed him on his last 2 years of coaching.
Yeah.
And going forward, Don's made the call. I don't think I'm the right man. So my question was, is John the right man? And I didn't think he was.
Yeah.
But Xavier comes out and says we're going to back him in.
So who would be the front men for Adelaide right now in terms of coaching? What are you hearing? What are you seeing?
Well,
In my honest opinion, right now, I would throw everything at Ross Lyon. I really would. Like, he's a good coach. And I know the noise is he has rumblings with players, but guess what? Those internal motivators are the guys that play 10, 12, 13 years of footy. They're the guys that love Ross Lyon. Not the external guys that are the coach killers that, you got to push in, get out in the track, do this, do that. They're the ones you lose time for. So if you're going to throw the toys out with the cop because the coach is into you and wants to get the best out of you, you go and play tennis. Like, literally, Ross Lyon is a serious coach. He is a serious coach. He would be the number one man. Throw everything at him. Don Pike's gone, I'm not the man. Ross is the man now.
Regardless of list position.
Anything.
Yep.
I am telling you right now, Ross Lyon would go to Adelaide and get success. He would. Because he can get the best out of a team. And someone within Ross Lyon's, what would you call it, inner sanctum, so actually played under Ross, 3 or 4 years, it's like a wet tea towel, and just that one, just literally get every drop out. He will get every drop out of that football club.
What do you think Ross Lyon should do, Kingy?
No, I wouldn't be rushing to Adelaide if I was Ross Lyon. I'd have the year off. I'd have the year off.
No, that's not the question.
He just asked me what.
Yeah, I asked him that question.
What would Ross do?
What should Ross do? Is it good for Ross to go to Adelaide?
No, I'm not asking. Yeah, go on.
That was a pretty simple question, I thought.
No, he's telling him to have a holiday. No time for holidays here.
Got a fair payout.
Anyway,
he's got the payout. He doesn't need to rush back in. If I was Ross, I'd sit back for 12 months. I'd have a look at where the game's going, tactically what's the shift been. He's played his way for years at Fremantle. It just ran short. It just ran short at St Kilda. Maybe sit back and just assess what's the future for Ross. There'll be jobs next year. We've seen 5 changes this year. There will be jobs next year. You've already sacked Woosha once already. I'm sure he'll reload in 2020. I think there'll be enough movement for a person like Ross to come back in. But I would refresh. I don't know if he needs to jump back into the fire just yet. Surely he'd be a better coach with 12 months off than what he is today. Surely. Refreshed, ready to go.
How do you know he's not refreshed now?
Because he's
change of environment.
The battering on the way out at Fremantle was pretty brutal. But under pressure for 6 months of this year.
He's a very resilient man.
I'm sure he is. But I just think he'd be better off to not jump into the Adelaide Crows is a mess right now. The football clubs. You really want to jump out of the Fremantle situation into the Adelaide Crows right now? Would you really think you want to do that?
If I was coaching, I'd love the challenge. I really, really would. A club that made a grand final 2 years prior and is in turmoil, as you say, I would love that opportunity. Absolutely love that opportunity.
Ross is not. If Ross went there, he's not going to tip out these senior core players you're talking about.
He wants to win now.
Exactly. He's not going to go in there to start a full rebuild.
Yeah. We're going to speak about Don Pike after this on the First Crack. We got Fabs and Fails on First Crack, and Dicko, you take the new ball with a fail.
Fail? Your haircut during the week.
Aside from that.
We can't leave it alone. I reckon you're 2 more cuts before those feathers come out.
Essentially, yeah.
In all honesty, Tom
wear a beanie
Hawkins,
next
big
week.
fail. Tom Hawkins, massive fail.
Yep.
Hadn't kicked a goal in 3 weeks. Got himself back into the game.
It was awesome.
And then a round arm to the head. Call it whatever you want. You can dissect it. There's no grey in this. It's black and white. And whether you like the player or not, you got to call it as you see it. He gets a week, and it costs the Cats. It'll cost the Cats a dangerous forward.
Yeah.
It's a big, big mistake. It's a massive fail. How do you do that? How do you do that behind the play?
Well, if he knocks him out, he probably gets a month. Instead, he doesn't. He stays on the field, Schofield, intentional, low impact, high contact 1 week.
Can I just ask you, though, you've played the role as a forward. What's he trying to do? Is that a normal action?
That, to me...
I got no ideas.
I'm saying that's a frustration.
So you think it was a lash?
Well, Schofield's in a way better position.
Yeah.
He's literally... He might have pushed him prior to that, got in front, he can't get around him. That's a frustration.
Yeah. My understanding is the Cats will go to the tribunal and they will they'll try to argue that it's careless, not intentional. And to do that's very difficult because it's so far behind the ball, and that's normally intentional. So
how many metres off the ball is behind the ball?
I don't know. In the play and not in the play.
I'm being serious.
Yeah, Barry Hall was in the play in 2005, wasn't he?
He was 2 kicks away, Barry Hall, when he was in play.
Yeah.
Careless, not intentional.
Yeah, careless would be a fine. Intentional is 1 week. What's your fail?
So why would he not be in play if he was closer than Barry Hall?
Why would he not be in play?
Yeah, why would his case be any different? Could he not get that? Could he not get a result with that argument?
It's a long bow. That is intentional.
Okay.
Every day of the week under the MRO and the tribunal system.
Can I give you mine?
Yes.
My fail. Looking at GWS tonight, and they've had oodles of first-round picks over the last 5 years, and they've had players that have left the club and they've had the ability to trade heavily. No one's had a better opportunity to get players or acquire players than GWS. How can they end up going into their big opportunity to win the premiership with the ruck situation of Dawson Simpson, who's played 20 games in 3 years, and dragging Shane Mumford out of retirement? Like tonight, he gave away 8 free kicks. He had 9 possessions and 8 free kicks against. I'm worried about them next week against Brodie Grundy.
Well, they're going to get a ruckman in the trade, aren't they? They're going to try to get Sam Jacobs or...
But it's a bit late, isn't it? I mean, they could...
It's late for this year.
It's right now.
Yeah. Yep. What's your... well, my fail is airport security, but we'll move on from that.
You're going to be on border security this week.
Your fab, Dicko?
My fab was Dangerfield.
Yeah.
I love how he spruik his 35 disposals and 19 contested. I'll have his last quarter any day of the week. He could add 0 touches to that point. He is the danger man. I love it. I love watching him contested marking and just grab that game.
Taggers for me. Taggers. We saw Robertson go to Whitfield. He had 5 kicks, Whitfield. De Boer go to Lockie Neal. Lockie Neal finished up with 17. He flipped around at the end, a bit of Zorko, but taggers are back. So what do they do with Dusty, Danger, Side Bottom, those guys next weekend?
Quick tips for you, and no, the Brisbane Lions you can't tip. So who you tipping? Richmond, Geelong, fellas, quickly.
Tigers.
Richmond.
Tigers and Collingwood, GWS.
Collingwood.
This will be under a goal.
Collingwood?
Under a goal.
Collingwood?
Either way.
Have a tip.
I'm tipping your poodle's got a better
Collingwood?
haircut than you.
Good luck with your relation.
Collingwood, Richmond Grand Final. Thank you very much. First crack. Well done, gentlemen.
This has been a Fox Sports production.